Okay, our next speaker, he's an expert on workforce trends and generational change and also creative thinking. He's a consultant to many brands like Coca-Cola and Harley-Davidson and Google, and he's also a best-selling author and lecturer. Please welcome Peter Sheahan.
So I must admit, I'm feeling a little bit freaked out. I'm feeling a little bit freaked out about following such a group of seriously smart people, but I'm also, as a business owner, asking myself, what on earth is coming next? Like, what is the next 3, 5, 10 years going to look like based on some of the insights, some of the ideas that you've seen thrown around? And it actually reminds me of something that happened 100 years ago, in 1901. I don't know if you know this, but in 1901, the then mayor of London brought the smartest people in all of London together to create a strategic plan for 1925. So this is 1901. It's like this, right? They had the politicians, the business leaders, the academics, who's who, the royal family, and they settled upon 3 major issues that the city of London would have to deal with in 1925. Remember, it's 1901. What do you reckon the 3 things were?
Horse manure.
John down the front said horse manure. Well, the first thing was that they estimated, don't laugh, that's kind of right, they estimated they would need 1 million new horses to get people around based on population trends, had a few demographers in the room. Now, if you've got 1 million new horses, you've got a whole lot of other problems. Number 2 is, where do you put 1 million new horses? And 3, thank you very much, where do you clean up? Or how do you clean up after so many new horses? Now, quick question. By 1905, how useful was their strategic plan? Like, defunct, useless was this plan. And I'm sitting here out the back going, what am I going to do? I make like so many notes just listening today. And I'm thinking about all this stuff I'm going to do, all these technologies I'm going to buy. My problem is I'm scared that in 2012, that the decisions I come up with today, the answers I come up with today are going to be useless and defunct, just like the kind of the horse thing was in 1901. So it's got me thinking, well, what do we do about that? Yeah, because you come to a day like today. Now, well, let's actually back up. What mistake did the Londoners make about the future for London? Like, where did they go wrong? By the way, this is the bit where you're supposed to get involved, by the way. You're all sitting there going like, does he actually want us to answer that question? Yes! Take your right hand, do this. Come on. You're not that cool, just do it. Take your shaking right hand, place it on the shoulder of the person next to you, shake them, say, wake up, we need to participate for the next 19 minutes. Oh my gosh, you've been sitting here all day just going, learn me. Well, this is your chance to kind of go, what am I going to do with all this learning that's been going on? What did they do wrong? They made a massive assumption about what the future would look like. Now, here's what blows my mind. Turns out, you go, oh, well, new technology changes the world. No, that technology already existed. So when they did the plan in 1901, the possibility of cars was not unthought of. It was well and truly in motion. It was in process. What did the leaders really do wrong is they made the assumption that the critical mass of the adoption of motor vehicles would be much slower than it actually turned out to be. And I reckon there's a risk we do that today. Now, I do, and I say that because this is kind of my world, right, is that what you find leaders try and do is push change into the future. Why? So we don't have to do anything about it today. Who has honestly, now, don't go, oh, I'm a mistake, because that would be shameful, but who has engaged in behavior that they should be feeling guilty about so far today that suggests that maybe that's never going to happen, that's something for tomorrow? Who's kind of had that? I know, right? No. You come to days like today to have people question your answers, to get to the heart of the assumptions you're making about what your business might look like tomorrow or the next day. And don't waste it by pushing what you've heard out there, but ask yourself, well, I don't know, I could be totally wrong about this, but I have been asking myself 3 questions. They didn't quite come out like that. I've slowly developed my 3 questions as the day went on. The first question I found myself asking, based on this morning's speakers particularly, is what, as a business leader, what as a business owner, what as an employee, whatever your role is, what do we have to do? And this might seem weird, but I'll explain why this is my question. What do we need to do to create new value, Does that make sense? Because we have been phenomenally successful. This nation, of which I now am proud to be a part, I'm not obviously American, I don't exactly sound American, but like coming here, I mean, you have a proud tradition of innovation and change, cutting edge, of profitable organizations, and many of you work for those, or if not profitable, impactful for those of you in the non-profit part of that equation. Quick question, what are you going to need? This is what leaders do. What are you going to need 3-5 years down the track to be able to create new value? Not to continue with your existing business model, continue with your existing technology, continue with your existing skill set. Because based on everything we've seen today, we continue with our existing model, behavior, skill set. Are we likely to remain and get the same consistent success, yes or no? No, we're likely to diminish. Our margins are getting squeezed. I mean, who's not feeling this? Already the global financial crisis didn't reduce supply, did it? There wasn't less competition as a result of the GFC. There was just less what? Demand. So it squeezes margins. So we as innovators have to go, right, how do we create new value? Which comes in one of two forms. Either one, we do it by extracting more value out of our organizations today, like cutting costs, shipping stuff overseas, et cetera, or we come up with genuinely new ways of bringing value to market. Now, I have two thoughts about this. Number one, what have we developed in the last 10 years as our habit for extracting more value out of our model? That is, reducing costs. What have we been doing? Shipping jobs, right? Like we send that stuff to another part of the world. I do as much work in China as I do in America. Not a bad idea. Do you know they're building 1,350 universities in China right now? They are building 150 airports. But which part are we shipping of what we have here in America of our value? Which thing do we get rid of first? Customer service. Isn't that true? So I, as an outsider, go, well, what is America's real value? Here's what I reckon it is. It's that you own the relationship with the economic buyer. You have the brand, you have the phone numbers, you have the social networks. You own the relationship with the person who makes decisions, that has the influence, has the money, and you're shipping that stuff overseas. So as a business, what I'm thinking now after today is, wow, what I need to do is invest in the intangible things that I can truly hold on to sustainably as a competitive advantage, less so almost than the intangible things, because you just met a whole lot of people who are going to invent the tangible stuff for you. So our role as business leaders, as leading staff, as whatever your role is again, is to look at how do you get the intangible pieces out of that. So here's another question. If that's how we do it, and by the way, you get that that's the same thing as coming up with whole new ways of doing what you do, right? Like, so where as an organization, regardless of sector, are you likely to come up with those breakthroughs? How are you going to come up with those breakthroughs? Where are you going to get the new value from? This is, again, time to participate. Think about this. Talk to your customer. Yeah. It's going to be talent, isn't it? It's going to be humans who are going to come up with the breakthroughs. It's humans who have invented the stuff that you have seen. It is brilliant, unbelievably talented people. The question is, so this is my second question, is how do we get new value? Great talent. 2, what is that talent going to look like? Because that's the next big question I'm asking, meaning what is the kind of person, what are they going to look like, what are they going to sound like, where are they going to come from, what kind of education are they going to have that I need to bring into my world, bring into my organization to create the breakthrough. And I've got a bit of a sense they might be young. Did you get the same sense, yes or no? Now, this is cash for comments. I happen to study a bit of that kind of stuff, but I'd never heard of, and this may be just my lack of education, the rule of 27. Did you hear that idea? I sat there going, the rule of I thought what was going to come out of that is it worth employing anyone over 27? Now, that was not what I thought, right, like properly thought. But seriously, I have a feeling that the kind of talent you're going to need to get those breakthroughs in intangible value and innovation that ultimately you're going to have to do to remain competitive, not just as a company or as an organization, but as a country, like internationally, is going to come from really bright people. And I get a sense that you're going to see increasingly that they are younger than previously you got those innovations. Now, would it be fair to say they come to the world of work with a slightly different perspective than you did at the same time? Yes or no? Yeah, right? I mean, like I remember when I first got, now I do a lot of stuff, right? But when I first got into the space of talking about generational research and things, my father, you'll love this, said to me at a family barbecue, Pete, when are you going to get a real job? Seriously, he was like, one, he thought the thought that you could get paid to do presentation. He said, that's not a real job. You should be doing that as community service. He couldn't comprehend the fact that there was economic value in intangible ideas. See the biggest shift? That's that first question again. But two, he said, generations. He said, quote unquote, he said, I was just like that when I was your age. Now, I've learned not to have that conversation with my dad, particularly after a couple of Reds. My little brother has not. He said to my old man, what do you mean just like us? What kind of videos did you watch when you were my age? My little brother could not comprehend that there weren't any videos when my dad was his age. He was like, no videos? Oh my, you know what he said? He goes, I knew you were old, but that old? And I'm just sitting there going, oh my God. He goes, did you have TV? Of course we had TV. What did you watch? I Love Lucy was his response. Now, I'd heard of I Love Lucy. My little brother never heard of it in his life. Dad said, why don't you look it up, Google boy? So, he got out his laptop, looks up Wikipedia, the source of all good information in the world, and he finds out that, I don't know if this is true, but this is Wikipedia, that the scriptwriter on I Love Lucy was banned from using the word pregnant. That just blows. Single female pregnant, way too racy for network television. And I think about that, and then I think about my father going, I was just like that. I go, no, because social values different today than they were then, yes or no? You just saw Jennifer show you technology that is in the classroom today, completely different to the technology that you might be used to. That is not only permeating the classroom, but permeating home. And the biggest shift, I think, that's happened, particularly in America, is parental styles. Total shift. When my mum was a kid, they told her she should be seen and not. She told her daughters, achieve anything you like, go and change the world. Just don't be like that when you come and work for me. Think about that, right? One of the biggest frustrations that has occurred in workplaces in the last 5 to 7 years is that younger people are coming in demanding that they get the big jobs, that they get to be on the decision-making panels, that they can influence the agenda. And we're like, what would you know? You're 23. Turns out probably a lot. Last time I was in Houston, a guy, you'll love this, a guy says to me, this is a few years ago, you wait. I'm like, dude, I'm just the messenger, right? But he's angry at me. He's like, you wait. He couldn't hold on to young engineers was his problem. They kept leaving, they wouldn't hang around. He says, you wait till we have a recession. That'll fix the little buggers, then they'll come looking for me for a job. And I was like, dude, all right, we have a recession, how long will it last? He said 5 years if we're lucky. He was rooting for an economic downturn, this guy, because he thought a recession would beat into the young talent he needed to create the economic breakthroughs he needed, would be more grateful for the job than they had been. No, the wrong question. It's not the wrong question. The question wasn't how do you force good talent to come and work for you, but how do you create an environment that's going to attract that kind of talent to come and work? That's a better question. Not what does it look like, but how do I make the best of it want to come and work for me? I have a prediction. I could be totally wrong and you should take this off the tape. I reckon in the next 10 years, I'm not an economist, right? But I reckon in the next 10 years in America, you're going to find something really kind of scary that you've never seen before. That is, you will have the biggest skill shortage in the history of this country. You will struggle to find the kind of talent you need that answers question one, and at the same time, you're going to have high unemployment. Because you are going through a cleanse as an economy. You are transitioning into what Dan Pink would call a right brain world. Haven't you seen it today? Can't you pick up that undertone of creativity and innovation and artistic? And there's a whole other piece there. So you're going to, we're going to have to work pretty hard to attract those people into our circles of influence, into our organizations. And I reckon we're going to have to lead in a whole different way. So that's my third question. The third question I've been asking myself is what kind of leader would I have to be to, one, manage this group? And two, what would I have to believe to be ready for whatever comes next? Because I don't really know. Yeah? Like the Jetsons thought we'd be flying around. This is a lady I spoke to at lunch. She's like, I'm a little skeptical of all this change stuff. I watched the Jetsons and none of that stuff came true in the 1980s, And I think that's true. I sat there at lunch and went, wow, that is so insightful. That is true. She's laughing. I can hear her going, that's me. I said that. Because I'm like, is this really going to happen, this stuff? I don't know. But you know what I do need to answer today, not something out in the future, is what do I need to think like now to be ready for that? Now, hang on. I just need to see how long I've got to go. Not very long. So I have a whole lot of thoughts, but I got one that I think is particularly relevant for today. So here is my thought. I don't agree with some of the thoughts that the technology isn't of itself the change, because you know what? I don't care when you were born, generational piece. It's a little bit like reading your horoscope, right? And believing what you read. I actually think that one of the keys we can understand is that that human nature has never changed. But what I love about social networking and Web 2.0 and things like that is you can now measure human nature in a visible way. Does that make sense? Like whether people are really connecting. You send your staff to networking events. You don't know if they networked. You do with Web 2.0, with social media, don't you? So let me ask you a question. Here's my view. Don't get caught in the technology. It's not about the technology. It's about what is the bit that sits behind it. What is the human nature that we have to tap into that sits behind all these successful innovations? And here is my thought. The best way to do it is look at what are the most successful innovations. Don't forget, I'm going to get to my point here about how you need to think as a leader to be ready, and I'll get there. What are the most visited websites in the world? Well, Google is actually 8 of the 10 most visited websites in the world, so yep. Let's say Google. Yell them out, come on. YouTube, yeah, owned by Google. eBay. Facebook. Twitter, no, but we'll put it up there anyway. Yeah, China has probably got 6 of them, but we just don't count China because there is no rest of the world. So you got that. That was a joke. Okay, that'll do. Maybe. Oh, that's enough. Quick question. We just heard about classrooms of today. How do classrooms of today work? Better question. How do brands of today work? Better question. How do leaders of today work? I am the all-knowing executive. I have the answers. You are my jug. Let me pour my brilliance into your mug. I'm the jug. You are the mug. No, isn't that true? We control our brand messages. We control our processes. We design workplaces that allow us to hire the lowest common denominator. That was brilliant in an industrial world where we measured things tangibly. Now you're creating economic value intangibly. Because the 1.2 million engineers from China this year will do the tangible piece for you. The measuring of the intangible or the leading of the intangible creators won't come from I am the jug and you are the mug. It's going to come from a whole new space. Not only that, but customers want a whole different experience with their all-knowing brands because they don't trust them anymore. That's the power of the stuff Tom talked about, right? Because all of these sites, ignore Google for a second, it's like your window in. Who creates the content on YouTube? Who creates the content on eBay? Who creates the content on Facebook, Twitter, MySpace? You name them, right? In other words, I think one of the key shifts you as a leader need to go through, and it's an assumption shift. It's right back to the London story, right? Is that I'm not going to call you the boss anymore. I'm going to call you the leader. Let's call this this could be your market, which would probably make that your brand, not the leader. And we'll call that means that's the workplace. So that's your customer or your staff. Traditional model, look like this. You've already agreed with that. New model, this model, doesn't look like that. Looks like this, doesn't it? The bigger question I have in my head now, this is like my 4th, I didn't have 4 when I came up, is that what is our role if that's what it looks like? Do you get that we now no longer are the ones dictating how the interactions at work need to take place? And don't get me wrong, that was not a bad idea 5 years ago when you extracted economic value by processes you could replicate. Think about your business. How can I replicate what I do? That's how I make more money. I get scale, I get leverage. Now, it's going to come from intangible innovation. It's going to come from insight that you've got to get in a whole new way. You can't process that stuff. You can't put it onto a Henry Ford production line and expect it to spit out the other end. Not only that, you've raised these kids, of which will be a big part of it, to say, bugger that, I can change the world. You send them to the Up experience. These are the children of the human movement, the human potential movement. Do, be, achieve. And then they're just not going to cop the production line. So we need to create environments that look more like that. And I think the first shift is that means the leader no longer has what? Nope. My view is, first belief is to get control, you are going to have to give it up. I'll say it again. To get control, I think you're going to have to give it up. And then your role will change. You will now no longer be the boss. You will at first be a contributor to the conversation. Actually, even before that, a facilitator of the conversation. You as the organization, you as the people creating the movement, you as the brand, the person selling the opportunity, you facilitate the chance for smart people to get together and do what smart people do. Then you contribute into that environment. If you contribute well, what do you get lots of? Trust, respect, credibility. If you've got trust, respect, credibility, what do you get to do next? You get to lead that conversation. Because the contribution earns you the right. It's nuanced, but it's a massive shift, isn't it? Ask yourself honestly, like I'm flashing here, I've got to get off in a sec, but ask yourself honestly, when all hell broke loose in October last year, I was in New York when Lehman went down, it was a zoo. What did most leaders do? They went into their survival mode, which has made them successful for decades. What was it? Control everything. Management mindset, not leadership mindset. Internal, no more external communications. Don't tell anyone what's going on. You come here, you do this. Bang. Emergency management. The sooner you break out of emergency management, the sooner you break out of that and creating, contributing, facilitating smart people to get together to create intangible value, creating environments where the kind of talent who can do that are going to want to work, whether they be young, old, I couldn't care less. The sooner you create that shift, which will require that you actually give up some of that control, I think the faster you're going to be ready for the future. Not that you have a clue what it is, because I certainly don't. But I know it's going to shift, and I know it's going to change, and I know it's going to be different than we've even been told today. But if you can just, even that one idea, to get control, give it up, could better position you for what comes next. So, from me to you, how I got invited on this program, I have no clue. But thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Take care. Thank you.